So, welcome, Scott, to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. Sun is shining. It's a little cool outside, but I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Well, Scott, I always ask my guests, where are you in the world right now? So would you mind sharing that?
Well, now I'm in South Carolina. That's where I call home, but I grew up and I raised a family in upstate New York for, I was there over 40 years. So I'm 45 years old currently. This is live recording.
This is live.
You didn't tell me I was supposed to turn my phone off there, Christian. But anyway, I should know better. So I'm originally from upstate New York, and that's where I grew up. That's where I was born and raised. And then my wife and I decided to move south after our kids had gotten a little bit older. Actually, I've got one kid still in elementary school, but the other ones were graduating. So so we waited. But yeah, that's why I'm in South Carolina, man.
That's fantastic. Now, you're no stranger to podcasts. And how many podcasts do you reckon you've probably appeared on, Scott?
Well, appeared on not as many as I've recorded my own, but yeah, I've been on quite a few shows, but I've also recorded on my own. Actually, this morning, Christian, I just recorded episode 496. So I've been podcasting for 3 episodes for the past 3 episodes a week for the past 3 years. We just celebrated our 3rd year.
Yeah. So, Scott, for anyone listening who hasn't had the pleasure of listening to one of your podcasts, seeing one of your, videos online, would you mind just sharing really quickly a little bit about yourself and what your business is?
Yeah, well, I mean, currently, I am a podcaster, but it wasn't always that way. Right now, currently, and we can go back and dig into my backstory because it wasn't always this way. But currently, I really build e-commerce businesses. And I also kind of do a little hybrid approach where we also include some digital aspects of that because that is kind of my background. And then I also now, which kind of came because of the e-commerce stuff, I started teaching people through my podcast and through free content, really how to get started selling online, and just Amazon happens to be a great channel to launch on. But I'm a big fan of also diversifying. So that's kind of where I am today, helping other people build their own online business and then, sharing that, but also doing it myself and building businesses and also doing some consulting and stuff.
Yeah. And just to put that into a little bit of context, just how many people do you think you have helped, Scott, directly through your courses, your podcasts? I mean, some of the download figures and, attendances.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard by downloads, right? I mean, I wish it was that many that as far as like how many I've helped. We're almost at 10 million downloads currently right now. But I mean, I would say probably thousands of people that I've helped. And then people that have went through some of our paid training over a couple thousand. So, it's one of those things though. It's like, you're like us, we're talking to people right now and we're hopefully going to, educate, but also inspire and motivate and all that stuff. But it's really getting those people to take action. And that's kind of been my mantra here since I started the podcast, because I'm a big believer in like, we can do, all this like content, like we can go ahead and, produce it. We can have people consume it, but it's actually getting the people to do it. That's the real secret. And that's really what I'm passionate about, is figuring out ways to get people over these mental blocks, but also the obstacles in the way of when they get started. So, I would say, I mean, thousands of people that I've reached and helped, and it's pretty rewarding to get thank you letters and all that stuff, but it's really just one person at a time. So when I get one person that reaches out and just sends me a thank you email or whatever, it's just, that's what I do it for.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I really want to dive into obviously what you're doing right now with the amazing seller and some of those things that you've just talked about there to really help people just take that first step. But let's just rewind it back. So Scott, was there a time in your life before all of this current success where you would say, yeah, I was in the rat race myself?
Yeah. And I'll try to make this a short story, but I mean, number one, when I graduated high school, I graduated in 1990, but when I graduated high school, I wasn't like, during my high school, my father and my parents weren't like saying, you have to go to college. Like, I wasn't raised in that environment. My family was all farmers. And now, I wasn't a farmer. My father wasn't. Well, he was when he was a kid, but he didn't raise me on a farm, right? But he was built that way and he was wired that way. So it wasn't like education was like top priority in order to be successful. So when I graduated, it wasn't really like thought of. It was like, you're going to go to work. So that's what I did. And I started working for his company, which was a construction company at the time. And I helped him build that into at that time, $2 million a year business, brick and mortar, which was pretty good. And I was just a kid out of high school. I stayed there for about 9 years, learned a trade, did really well, but I was working a lot, like 60 plus hours a week. And I thought I was going to own that business one day. I literally thought that I was working all this time and hours to own this company. Well, that didn't work out. My father and his partner, it was like a bad marriage. And then, so we all split. And during that time, my wife and I started, because we were thinking about it anyway. I was working a ton of hours and I had a small family at the time. I had 2 kids at the time. We were like, how am I going to spend more time with the family? I don't want to be that dad that's not home. And I'm not going to be able to own this company now. So now what? Like, I don't have any education. I don't have all this. So we had this idea that we would start a photography studio. Like, out of thin air, we're like, we're going to start a photography studio. And the reason why was because we had kids and we went to photography studios and we seen how it was operated. And we're like, we could do a better job than that. So we did. And we learned through reading, not YouTube. YouTube wasn't even really around then as much as it is now. It's for training. Read a lot of books. And by the way, I don't like reading, so that was hard. But I wanted it bad enough that I went out there and I figured it out. So we built a little photography part-time business. Fast forward, we turned that into a pretty successful local brick and mortar, and we supported our family for about 10 years with that business. But then things started to change and shift, and we wanted to, kind of have a little bit new direction. We wanted to spend more time with our kids again. We created a job for ourselves, thinking we were going to have freedom, but then we were creating more stuff to do. So anyway, so when we started hearing about online stuff, I started dabbling with eBay. And I had a little, on the side there, I had a little video transfer business. So I started selling these devices on eBay in the film transfer business. And I made about $100,000 on eBay in about 18 months. And that opened my eyes to physical products. And I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. Like, I could totally do this. So I started dabbling in that. And then, oh, by the way, people were asking me how I was building, or how I built my photography business. So then I started teaching that online. And I launched a little course on that, made a little bit of money. And I'm like, holy crap, like, this digital product thing kind of works too. And then I started to really focus on that, and then the eBay thing. And then that kind of was where it kind of brought me into the Amazon world, because I wanted another revenue stream. But there's so many twists and turns in that story, man, that we could be here all day. But I just want people to understand, like, I wasn't raised and I was not educated to be an entrepreneur. It just wasn't there. It was just go out there and make it happen. And luckily going through this take action, approach that I always live by is like, I'll go there, I'll fail, I'll pick myself up, dust myself off, and I'll figure it out. And that was pretty much it. No,
that's awesome. And for someone who is at a stage now, Scott, where they're working full time, mm-hmm. and they're looking at Amazon, they're looking at online selling. Yeah. Why is Amazon such a good platform for somebody to get started and to learn the ropes and to develop into entrepreneurial minded thinking of how mm-hmm. to source products? And you've taken so many people through this process, but just what is it that makes it such a great opportunity for people?
Well, again, we could dig into a lot of different things for different people, because everyone isn't cut out for certain types of business, number one. Number two, when I first started dabbling in a lot of my little experiments with like building websites and getting traffic and trying to do all that stuff, learning all that stuff, it's a process. Like, you got to buy the domain, you need hosting, you need merchant accounts, you need, everything to be synced up, you need customer service. Well, when I found out that Amazon handled all that, all I have to do is find products that a market wants to buy and make them good, and then just ship them to Amazon, and Amazon will take care of all that. That was like game changer for me. I'm like, wow, like they're going to collect the money. They're going to pay me. Like, they're going to handle any refunds. They're going to ship the product. Like yesterday in one of our brands, we had 112 units go out the door. I didn't touch them. Amazon did. Right? Boom, out the door. Imagine packing up 112 units of something. You'd be excited at first, like, wow, we sold 112 things. Oh crap, we got to box these up and ship them. That's not fun. Right? So they do that every single day. Do they charge us for that? Absolutely. But you would pay an employee to do the same thing. So that's what got me excited about that. But to answer your question, for people that are just starting, it takes all of that out of the mix. You don't have to worry about all of the the technical side of things, really. You just got to figure out how Amazon works as far as getting the traffic to your listing, getting the eyeballs, and then really how to optimize and stuff. That's really all you really got to worry about. And obviously finding a good market and finding good products. But I just like it because it's a great way to get yourself started in the online space, whether that's digital products or physical products. This is a great way. There's other ways, but this is a great way for me, for me to recommend to people to get started.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that as you've progressed and learned how to do this yourself, you then started up the podcast literally to share all of those experiences. Because I know so many people who have talked to me about Amazon, and when I ask them a few questions, they've always referred back to your podcast as certainly the starting point. Yeah. And that has then obviously given them so much information for them to actually go and just, take those first steps.
Sure.
Now, like any business, there's a fast way and there's a slow way to do it. And often the fast way is to follow the footsteps of someone who's already trodden the path ahead. Yeah. So again, with Amazon, I'm sure the same applies. Someone can work it out for themselves, or they can follow a proven method. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the methods that people should be looking out for that you obviously now have put in place for your own business and are sharing with others?
Well, recently we just started a new brand from scratch under 12 months ago. And we already hit, it's mid 6 figures in revenue with that business. And it's exactly what I'll share with you right here. And I share in my workshops, on my podcast, everything. But there's 5 components to it. And it's really like finding a good market and a product, right? So it's not always, a lot of people want to find the next fidget spinner, right? Like I'm going to go sell a fidget spinner and it's going to sell like hotcakes and I'm going to make $100,000. It's great and all, but that's not a business. So to me, it's always like, we got to figure out products, but we got to figure out a market that's buying the products and that we can sell multiple products to that market. So that's number 1, product selection. And then number 2 is really sourcing. Like, how do you go and find the right sourcing? So for us, we use Alibaba. Alibaba isn't necessarily where we have to find our product, but we can find suppliers that sell those kinds of products, and then we can dig deeper. So it's kind of like we have someone on the ground there when we start to communicate with those agents. So that's the second part, finding a good agent. Alibaba is a great channel to kind of locate those people. And then 3 is actually doing what we call a pre-launch. And that's where we kind of get things all ready while we're waiting for our product to come in. After we've sourced our product, we're going to do a test order of 500 units or something. We want to get things ready. So we have to create our listing. That's like the hardest part in the beginning, as far as like setting up your account and setting up your listing. But it's not that hard, really. You got to have a good title. You got to have good images and good bullets and good description. And that's pretty much it. The back-end keywords, you got to have that stuff in there. But it's pretty basic, and you can always tweak that stuff. So that's number 3. And actually, another part of number 3 is kind of figuring out where you're going to get some traction by giving your product away at a discount. Not away like you're going to give away, like people were doing that too, where they're giving away their product for free to get sales. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about like 25% off. So you either build your own little email list, or you go out there and you find other people that already have, or find influencers on YouTube, any of that stuff. But we want to have that in place, so when we launch, we can go ahead and get some sales through the door. And then that's what Amazon wants, right? So now we're going to feed Amazon what they want, and that is sales. A lot of people think it's reviews. It's sales. Amazon wants sales. Customers like to see reviews, but the sales, that's what Amazon cares about. So then from there, we launch the product, and with that launch, we're going to be doing everything that we used in the pre-launch to kind of fuel that. And then from there, we're going to keep that momentum. And that's in step 5, where we're going to promote it. So we're going to promote it through our own channels, and we're also going to start using Amazon pay-per-click. So really everything is kind of like in a process, and we just follow that process. The key is finding that market that you can sell 3 to 5 products, like right off the top of your head, that you think that they would buy. So if you're going to buy, like the other day, I bought a new mic for traveling. So I bought a mic. I've also got a cord, and I've also got the pop screen, right? So I got 3 things there that come up frequently bought together: mic, cable, pop screen, right? If those are my 3 products, I get 3 sales off of 1 customer. That's where the magic is.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense there, Scott. And what sort of time frame are we looking at for someone to start and set up from beginning to actually having their first sale? How quickly can that be done, realistically?
I think it does depend on as far as like how quickly you can settle on a market. right? And how quickly you can say, all right, that's the direction I'm going to go. That's the focus I'm going to go towards. So I'm going to go into the kayak bass fishing market. All right, cool. Now I got to figure out those products. Once you get those products that you're going to source, they don't have to be the final version of your product either. You can do a minimal viable product. Just do something that you can get to market to test the market. And then you can start doing some improvements and tweaks. But if you can do the tweaks, that's fine. But I like to say 90 days is a good time frame for you to consider. Like, okay, from everything I just talked about to the time that your product is live and you have your first set of sales coming in, that's what I would allow myself, like 90 days. Now that could be less, it could be more. But again, it's going to depend. We've got some products that we said, oh, we want to do this one. Okay, we did some minor tweaks, whatever. We got it in 30 days. Boom, we're up and running. We've got other ones we've waited 90 plus days and it still isn't ready yet. We're doing back and forth, like molds and, all kinds of stuff, right? So it just depends on how complex the product is going to be and also how driven you are. Are you going to sit there and crank on it and put out the work? Or are you going to be like, today I kind of want to take the day off, So it's about really getting out there and just making it happen.
That's it. And we're recording now early March and we've just come off the back of the Chinese New Year, because that's another factor, isn't it? That I know some of our members have had to wait a little bit longer for that as well.
Yep.
So we have talked about what you would do to take your first steps.
Mm-hmm.
How do you scale on Amazon? And is there any limit really to how far and how big you can go with this business?
Well, I think you can go really big, but here's the thing though. You're not building a business on Amazon. Okay, I want that out of the way, right? Like people that are like, I'm going to build a business on Amazon. That's mistake number one. Don't do that. Okay. Start on Amazon, get some momentum, get some sales, get some customers that are going through your follow-ups, all of that stuff. But you should be building an email list in your market so you can communicate, so you can create how-to content, so you can keep communicating with these people and staying front of mind. You want to have Facebook ads going and driving to, whether it's a contest that you're doing to give away products that are related to your market or whatever, right? Like all of this stuff you want to be doing because it's more than just the Amazon channel. We want to build outside of Amazon all of our other assets that can drive sales to Amazon. But if Amazon decides to close the doors for us because they don't like us anymore, we can redirect everything over. And we can also have another sales channel going through. If we can get a Facebook ad to convert on our own website, so if we can drive a paid ad over to a landing page that gives someone a free plus shipping offer, and then we can sell them 3 additional products and not even go through Amazon, but we can still fulfill it through Amazon, by the way. That's another thing a lot of people don't know. We can have our inventory in Amazon and we can create a fulfillment order that wasn't created on Amazon. The sale was not created on Amazon. It was on our own website. So we can do that too. And then that's where the magic happens. And then the last thing to really think about is now that we have this in place, we could technically sell this business, right? Now, is it going to be more valuable if I say, I've got an Amazon business and all my sales are coming from Amazon and that's what I'm relying on? How much will you pay me for that? I'll give you 3X. Okay, cool. Here, how about this? I've got an Amazon business, plus I got my own sales channel, plus I've got an email list, plus I've got 30,000 unique visitors to my website, plus I've got all this stuff. How much you give me now? I'll give you 5X. Cool. So now we went from a $300,000 sale to $1 million sale or $750,000 sale, whatever, right? Like, so we could do all that stuff with having these additional assets. So I want people to understand you're starting using the platform to shortcut the process of launching something and figuring all that other stuff out. But you want to always have in the back of your mind, you're building a brand in a market that you could potentially sell.
Yeah. And I think you've just really answered what I was going to ask you next, Scott, where some people may say, oh, there isn't Amazon saturated. How are you still going to find the good opportunities? Well, I'm sure there's always going to be opportunities because there's always new things being created in the world. And when you own it yourself, as you've just said, so you're creating your own list and your own products, then you don't have to worry about that problem anyway, do you?
No. And here's the other thing too. A lot of people, here's one big mistake a lot of people make that I would say, if you're getting started or if you're already starting your brand, don't just look at products that are selling 100 sales a day, like one product. I would rather find 10 products that are selling 10 units a day and spread that out and diversify that. Because if something goes wrong with one product, it doesn't take the whole ship down, right? And I'm able to, again, show someone that was going to buy my brand that I have multiple SKUs. right? So again, that's a big mistake a lot of people make is number one, they go after the products that have a really lot of sales, and then the competition is higher, right? So if the competition is higher there, why would you want to compete with that? Why don't you just go a little bit lower and get 10 sales a day? I say the 10 by 10 by 1. It's 10 sales a day, $10 profit per sale. One product is $100 profit per day. If we do that for 3 products, we've got $300 per day, $9,000 a month. Do the quick math. It's about 108,000 the last I checked. 108,000 profit US dollar. Okay. Profit. That's not gross. That's profit. If all we do is find products that can net $100 profit per day, and that's 10 sales a day. So it's much easier to do that than to go, I'm going to find that one product that's doing 100 sales a day. And then all the competition is going to be in there. Then you're going to be doing the whole review game and all that stuff. I'm not about that. I'm about making it easier.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that most people listening, if they could generate that as an additional income, then they're going to be pretty close to escaping the rat race if that's what they pushed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So on that note, Scott, for all the many hundreds, if not thousands of people that you've had the pleasure of working and helping get their Amazon businesses up and running, just give us a few of the success stories, ones that have really stood out for you, where people have just, been able to give up the rat race, give up the day job, and are now just, really enjoying and thriving by, their own business online.
Yeah, I've got a guy, I'm actually going to be meeting him next week. His name is Sean. He was one of our listeners and students. And, he was blowing me away because here was someone that had a full-time job. Him and his brother went in and started a brand around 2.5 years ago now. He came to one of my live events. I had a small little live event, 25-person event. And at the time, after he started, he was doing around $50,000 a month, which to a lot of people is a lot of money. And it was pretty awesome. But he was still coming to my event. I'm like, dude, man, you're like there, like just keep doing what you're doing. He's like, yeah, but there's a few things I know I can tweak. So we tweaked a few things, and again, expanding his product base and then building a real brand. Fast forward, today, he's doing upwards of $175,000 to $200,000, not profit. That's revenue per month. Right. So he's left his job. He's got a pretty large family of 5, I believe it's 5 or 6. That really lights me up because again, those numbers are huge, but that doesn't mean that that's got to be your number. I think you got to figure out your number. Another one that comes to mind is, let me think here. Oh, okay. So I've got another guy who actually came to one of our live events again. He actually was in one of our paid trainings too. And he was just confused. He just didn't have a product picked yet, didn't know the direction. He just was kind of confused and overwhelmed because he was listening to everyone and saying that you should do this strategy, you should do this strategy. That's, again, another tip. Focus on one way and just execute. Whether it's my way or someone else's way, just execute. So he finally, we got him straight. We were like, listen, just follow the process. So he did. Fast forward. I mean, he emailed me when he hit 10K a month, and he was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like dreaming, like this is amazing. And he's got a corporate job, so a pretty well-paying job. And his goal was to get to 100K and then he could leave. And him and his wife have since left. He was, I think it was over $100,000 a month he had in the fourth quarter. But since then, which is even more exciting, is then he went and took his expertise and he started to consult other businesses that did not want to list their stuff on Amazon. So now he's actually doing that on the side, generating revenue from those people, or actually not even revenue, it's profit, because he's getting paid on all the sales that they get, regardless of their profit. And then this way here, he can get paid for his time. And all he's doing is the basic stuff. Like he said, he goes, Scott, it's so crazy because these are big companies and they just don't get it. So he's just going in there and doing all of the stuff that we talk about, and they're paying him a lot of money. So those things are really what light me up is that I've got a whole thank you wall over here that reminds me every day of the reason why I do it. And, some of them are small. Scott, I just made my first $100. Awesome. Like that is the start. But to be able to get there to where you can actually leave your job, if that's your goal. Some people, it's like not my goal. My goal is to just make some extra money so I can go on vacation every year and not have to stress about it. That's fine too. But I've helped people get to $100 and also to a couple $100,000 a month. So it's everywhere in between. And I love every part of that. So, it's just a lot of it is just distraction and just focus, man. Just get focused.
Yeah. And again, as you said, it's having the right mindset. Like anything,
Totally.
if you're determined enough, then the strategy is really just 20%. It's the attitude that you have towards it, isn't it?
It really is. And I think people need to understand that it is that. Like, you are the one holding you back, period. Like, there's no extra opportunity for me versus you, right? Like, you're going to start at 0. I start at 0. Like, everyone starts at 0. Now, do you have some strengths that I don't have? Probably, right? But do I have some strengths now that you don't have? Probably. So you just have to work, with other people, or just dig deeper inside of yourself. But this right here, your mind is what is I'm telling you, is like controlling you. And a lot of times I try to talk more about it, but I know people are like, I just want to know the tactics, right? Well, it's like, screw the tactics for a second. The tactics aren't going to do anything if you don't have this right, because you are going to come up, you're going to run against obstacles. You're going to have problems, but they're your problems, right? They're like your problems that you have to deal with, and you can deal with them. It's not your boss telling you have to deal with a problem that they screwed up on, right? It's your problem. And I like it that I'm able to, increase my income if I want to work a little harder, right? I don't have to wait for someone to say, you get a 3% raise, 4% raise. Oh, cool. Like, I don't want to wait for that. Like, I want to be like, you know what? I want to add another, 5 figures to my bottom line, or 6 figures to my bottom line. I got to go out there and just figure out the plan and just execute it. It's out there.
Yeah, most definitely. So Scott, I just want to touch on as well the podcasting, because you're so well known. You've done so incredibly well. You said, nearly at 500 episodes now. So yeah. Tell us a bit about how that began and how it's evolved and some of the highlights along the way.
Yeah. Again, here's another little lesson for people. I didn't think it would turn into anything, to be honest with you. I had started another podcast probably around 2 years before that. And it was more on just business marketing in general, because I've done it, I've done a lot of it, and I figured I could add value there. But the one thing that I noticed was, like, when I wanted to start sharing my story and I didn't worry about monetization at the time either. I did 50 episodes before I made $1 from the podcast. So it was like 50 episodes. I just, I'm all in. I'm just going to help a bunch of people. I'm just going to help and just share. It's going to take me a little time, but I know eventually, though, if I get an audience, that I know that things will happen, right? So so I was thinking about doing it, and I said to my wife, I go, I don't know if I want to do it. And she's like, listen, just record 20 episodes and just commit to it, and whatever happens, happens. And if you start to see that you start getting some listeners and stuff, then you continue. And well, 3 years later, I've got some listeners, and I'm still here. And, the podcast now is another revenue stream for me, which I never intended it to be. So yeah, if you were to ask me 3.5 years ago, would I have, a top rated podcast, I'd say you're crazy. Right. But I also know that there's a lot of things along that journey of mine that I doubting myself on leaving my father's company to start a photography business. That was scary, man. I had a family. Right? Like, I'm taking a living that I was making that supported my family, and I'm taking a risk that this next thing is going to work. Even though we had some customers and stuff, and we were making some money, but it wasn't a definite, and then from there, leaving that photography business to then focus more on my online stuff. That was a risky move. Right? But it's all kind of worked out, and it's been some ups and downs through the journey, but it's part of the process, but yeah, the podcast has been awesome, man. I mean, it lights me up to be able to reach people and help people, and even connect with people like you now. And then just be able to go to events and have little meetups and hear people all over the world that are listening, and you're helping. And it's pretty rewarding. It's humbling. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I was going to mention, this really is truly a worldwide thing. And if anyone is listening now in, different countries, obviously we've got a lot of Escape the Rat Race members in the UK, but, you're talking about Amazon, US, you're talking about Europe. You can work this across all of the territories, can't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's global. I mean, you can go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was almost going to be heading in your neck of the woods. I was actually going to be heading to London. But we kind of changed the plans. We may end up, we're just not, it was going to be next year, but we might be pausing that. But I was going to see if there was going to be any type of TAS meetup out in London. But
wow. Well, definitely give us a shout. Let me know, and we'll arrange a warm welcome for you, Scott.
Yeah, no, I absolutely will. My wife wants to definitely go and visit. So that will probably be in the future for sure.
That sounds good. Well, off the back of that, what else is in the future for you, Scott? And what are you most excited about for the next 12 months?
Wow, there's a lot going on. And I think the biggest thing that I'm most excited about right now is, well, two things. One, this new brand that we started and that we're building. It's so fun and rewarding to see the direction that it's going, and that this could possibly be a brand that we could exit for 7, maybe even 8 figures. And it's one of those things that it's like you're building something, it's a challenge, it's fun. So I'm really excited about that, to see where we're able to take that. The second part of that is I'm excited to share, that I'm excited to help other people. I'm most, I guess, excited about meeting people in person at the events that I'll be attending. I'm going to be speaking in Florida in May of this year, Seller Summit, Steve Chu's event, and my 3rd time there. And I just love just the interaction with people, but just again, having guests on, just being able to get to know people in the audience and people that are listening, and new people every day. So yeah, that's really what lights me up. I'm a pretty simple guy. I mean, I'm a family guy, so I like to spend time with the family. We've got some ball games that we're going to be going to. I'm a Yankee fan. My daughter is a huge Aaron Judge fan, which we just got back from spring training. So we're going to be hitting some games this year. So I'm pretty excited about that too.
Oh, amazing. Now, Scott, people listening clearly have picked up on your wealth of knowledge in the area of Amazon FBA. They can listen to your podcast. Where else can they find you online and check out some of your programs and training?
Yeah. I'm always about like giving value way before anyone would ever, put any money out. So that's why I create the podcast, which is totally free. So I would say iTunes, same place they found your podcast probably, or subscribe to, iTunes or Stitcher, The Amazing Seller, just look for the podcast, and then subscribe to that. TheAmazingSeller.com is my home base. There is basically where all the podcast episodes go and any other content that we create. And then my free workshop, that would be TheAmazingSeller.com/workshop. And that will take you through the 5 phases, really the 5 steps of creating a brand from scratch and then launching on Amazon, using that as your vehicle to really get yourself started. So really the 5-step process is going through really what we've just recently done again in this new brand. So I kind of give you like a case study of all of those different pieces. Again, we didn't have a lot of time here today to go through every detail, but I do it in about 60 to 70 minutes. We really do a deep dive and go through those 5 steps. So I would say check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And I shall link to all of that in the show notes for easy access for anyone listening right now. Sure. So Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I've really enjoyed it, and I wish you all the very best success for the rest of this year. And I look forward to us hooking up when you do make it over to London.
I will definitely take you up on that. So when I do head that way, I will let you know, and you have to show me around.
For sure. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, Christian.